Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3 from verse 16.
Your Majesty, we will not try to defend ourselves. If the God whom serve is able to save us from the blazing furnace and from your power, then he will. But even if he doesn't, Your Majesty, be sure that we will not worship your God, and we will not bow down to the gold statue that you have set up.
Thank you very much. There was a man, there was a king who ruled Babylon. This king was called Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was a man that ruled Babylon in certain times. The only thing that is interesting, everybody knows the story of Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel, Meshach, and Abednego. The only thing that I'm trying us to do is to go into whatever I'm trying to get to. King Nebuchadnezzar was a ruler of Babylon. He didn't believe in God that we believe today. He was not a Christian. He believed in certain gods that were those gods that he wanted to believe, which he thought they were actual the gods that were right. At one point, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. And he wanted people to interpret his dream within his ministry, within his ministers, okay? Because I'll say he was the prime minister or whoever, because he was a king. But he wanted his people within his circle to interpret his dream for him. But there was nobody who could interpret that dream for him. Fortunately, whoever was supposed to interpret it, they were given a hard punishment if it was not death. Something like that. Something like that happened to those that were supposed to interpret the dream for the king, King Nebuchadnezzar. It came to a point that there were 4 men who were slaves. And these guys were the Jews. There was the prophet Daniel, who at a certain point was chosen to go interpret the dream for the king. And he did. As soon as Daniel interpreted the dream, as soon as he interpreted the dream for the king, he was promoted. And King Nebuchadnezzar saw something that was not within his people because they couldn't interpret his dream of what it actually meant. Now there were, as I said, there were 4 men, okay, that there were 5, King Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It came to a point when the king had seen that, okay, this man could not interpret whatever he wanted, but Daniel did. He fired his lieutenants. Now, at a certain point, King Nebuchadnezzar built a statue. It was actually, if you read it from Daniel chapter 1 coming down, it was a setup of, because the people didn't want Daniel in the setup of the king Nebuchadnezzar. They wanted to humiliate them some way, one way or the other. When King Nebuchadnezzar had built a statue, he instructed each and everybody that at a certain time, when a certain trumpet sounds, everybody was supposed to go down and worship that God that King Nebuchadnezzar had built. But In doing so, there were 3 men that they were Jews that did not follow, that did not listen to the commandment of the king Nebuchadnezzar. And the punishment of not following the orders of the king was to be put to death. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came to a point when everybody was kneeling in the God of King Nebuchadnezzar. They refused to bow under the God that was not God that they served, who was the God that we serve today. When the message got to King Nebuchadnezzar that there were 3 people that were not bowing to his commandment, his message was to take those guys and come and be answerable to them, to whatever they were doing. The only thing that I'm trying to get is not about what the king Nebuchadnezzar, but the only thing that I'm trying us to get to is how they went when they were confronted by the king. When all the question had been put unto them, they said, the God we serve is going to deliver us from the hand of the king and from the whatever the punishment was. And the punishment was, when the king had decided his punishment, he said he was going to put them into the furnace of fire. With the rage of him, of these people refusing what he had said, what he had commanded, he asked his people to put the furnace of fire 7 times than the normal what it was supposed to be. 7 times than what the normal furnace was supposed to be. Remember, these were the men of God. These were the men that walked in the face fearing God. These were the men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These were the people that feared the Lord. When everything was put into them by King Nebuchadnezzar, that at a certain point they were going to kneel to this God. And then they said, no. The God that we serve, even if we are thrown into the furnace of fire, is going to deliver us. The only thing that I'm trying to get to, it is the journey that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego took as they were being thrown into the furnace. That is what I want us to look at. When they were put, when the king Nebuchadnezzar ordered his men to tie these three men of God and put them into the furnace of fire, there was one thing in between them and the fire. That was God. The step that they took when they were being thrown into the furnace of fire, it was the soldier step. And the next step, as they were going into the furnace of fire, the step they took was with God. As they went into the furnace of fire, there was only one thing that was left in between them and their life. It was for them to perish. But because they served the God that they knew even before they were put into the furnace of fire, that even though there is a God that is above the king Nebuchadnezzar, there is a God that is above the idol that King Nebuchadnezzar had built, they knew that he was going to deliver from no matter whatever happens. The only thing that I'm trying to get to is, it is the step, the walk they walked into the furnace of fire. As they went into the furnace of fire, they did not go there alone. They took their God, they took their shield, they took the God that they know that no matter whatever happens, he was going to deliver them from he was going to deliver them from the furnace of fire. Boshe, can you continue to... Verse 23.
Then Nebuchadnezzar lost his temper, and his face turned red with anger at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So he ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. 23, yeah? Just 23? 23 to 26. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, still tied up, fell into the heart of the blazing fire. Suddenly Nebuchadnezzar leapt to his feet in amazement. He asked his officials, "Didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the blazing furnace?" They answered, "Yes, we did, Your Majesty." "Then why do I see 4 men walking about in the fire?" he asked. "They are not tied up. They show no sign of being hurt, and the 4th one looks like an angel." So Nebuchadnezzar went up to the door of the blazing furnace and called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Supreme, God will come out." And they came out at once.
Thank you very much. When the king had done whatever he wanted to do, when he looked into the furnace of fire, he saw 4 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The 4th man, he was not thrown into the furnace of fire, but he appeared with the 3 men. Amen. He served Meshach and Abednego, and he appeared. When the king Nebuchadnezzar looked into the furnace of the fire, hoping that the men had been consumed by fire, he saw 4 men, and he said the 4th man looked like the Son of God. Hallelujah. The Son of Man went with them as they were thrown into the furnace of fire. It is the faith that will never, the faith of a Christian. When the things are dark, when you know that you are going to die. But remember, as a child of God, that the next step is not for you. The fight that you are fighting is not about you. The fight that we are fighting is not about men. It's not about men or the armies of whoever. We are fighting the spirit which is moving around the devil that is with you. But if you know that you are a child of God, no matter when the storms hit you, no matter when the storms hit, whatever the vessel that is carrying that soul of God, as long you know that who you serve, as long you know that the next step that you take into the furnace of fire, God will be with you. Sometime in the 17th century, there is a man. He was a British sailor. This man used to ferry people from Africa during the slave trade. That was in the 1700s and 1800s. This man was walking in the dark. To a certain point, this man was actually a killer. The history tells us that one day his ship was hit by the storm. This man was called John Newton. Many people could know him. Maybe you could know where I'm trying to go. This man was called John Newton. He was the captain of a ship. Why I say he was a killer? Because the history tells us that some of the people, when they came from Africa, they didn't make it to wherever they were destined to. Some were thrown into the the sea, and they perished. This man, John Newton, when he was captaining that ship that day, that ship was hit by the storm. He backed the storm for quite a number of hours, if not days. With all his experience as a sailor, it came to a point of realizing that no matter what he was doing, the ship was going down. There was nothing anymore he could do. The ship was gonna go down. I don't know, when you are driving, you sit in the driver's seat. When you are a pilot, they sit in the cockpit. I don't know with the captain of the ship, wherever they sit. That man, John Newton, at that particular time, he saw that there was nothing he could do. And he left wherever the driving of the ship was. And he went into the deck for him to have the last breath on earth. When he came to the deck, the steps that he took from wherever he controls his ship to the deck, his heart was changed. His steps that he took from his driver's position to the deck, the man walked, and seeing that there was nothing he could do, the ship was full of the slaves, the ship was full of innocent souls, and the sinner was John Newton himself. And he walked from there to the deck, and he repented. He steps from the driver's seat to the deck, and when he came to the deck, he was ready for his last breath. But because at that particular time, a killer as he was, God touched his heart and he repented. And do you know what John Newton did after that? At a certain time, he went to write a hymn that everybody sings and adores, like we all enjoy, Amazing Grace. That is what John Newton wrote after the storm had hit, when he had failed to do anything that he wanted to do. He came to the deck and he saw that, okay, for the ship to be standing at that particular time, it was the amazing grace. He walked from that step to where he went to. He walked with God, and John Newton repented. He repented because from that point, as a captain, as a sinner as he was, and walking up to the deck and seeing his last breath, to take his last breath, he repented. And he was saved. And he was ordained and became a minister. He walked with God from one point to another. And he wrote, he said, I was blind, but now I can see. Amazing grace. It was the amazing grace of the Lord that took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and become a shield of the furnace, of the fury of King Nebuchadnezzar. It was that amazing grace that saved John Newton. It was the same grace that saved the children of Israel. When Moses was taking the children of Israel from the land of Pharaoh to the promised land, they came to a point where it was between the children of Israel, the Red Sea, and the army of Pharaoh. And the next step that they took, crossing the Red Sea, it is the step they took because they acknowledged, say, God, it is time. If either we go into the Red Sea, we drown, we die. It's either we sit here, we stand, and the army of Pharaoh is going to finish us. But the next step that we need as the children of God, as the promised people that were supposed to be taken from the land from their slavery, to the promised land, God said, I will take the next step with you, and the Red Sea opened, and they walked into the dry land. It was the amazing grace, the same grace that saved John Newton, the same grace that saved Meshach, Abel, and Abednego. That was the same grace because they believed in serving the mighty God. Hallelujah. What is your next step? As the children of God, no matter what you can do, as long as you don't take the next step with God, you are going to fall. It is the amazing grace that we have to sing. It is the amazing grace that saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It is the same grace that saved John Newton, as notorious as a killer as he was. But when anybody that is a sinner, when it comes to confess their sin and start to walk with God, he is faithful to honor his word. It is the amazing grace that is going to save you and me as a child of God. Because the next step, the next walk, it's you. The next one, you have to claim it. You say it in your word. If you walk in your step, you are faithful to actually lead you. Let him lead you into the next step. You have taken one. The next one is not for you. It is for God to fight you, to fight the fight for you. It is the amazing grace for you and me to walk in his footsteps. Amen. It is the amazing grace that is going to save you and me. Thank you very much.